Hello and welcome back to another Conscious Libre video. This video is actually based on an article that I wrote back in 2019. It's on the website. The article was named 2019 Twin Flames and Easily Confused Similar Soul Connection Types. Welcome to my brief introduction to soul connections that are too easily all confused as they tend to be lumped together under the label of twin flame. And I use that term loosely here as there are other forms of connections mentioned here also. These are more or less the same in process, yet all based in different states and circumstances. The biggest thing that I have learned is that the twin flame is something that you are going through with someone else. It isn't what you are. That is the big difference here that I have learned, because if it was what you are, then there wouldn't be different types of it to start with. So, firstly, there's some simple information to take in before me going any further forward, and that is I will not be using any of the old concepts of soulmates, near twins or karmics. I'm all about new information based on the new experiences from higher levels of consciousness. Now I've gotten that out of the way. I know this information will bring up one or two questions, and some of those questions might actually be prerequisites, so I'm going to go through those questions first and give them a quick answer. Is there only one twin flame, or can you have multiples? The answer there is yes and yes. It is a bit of a paradox, but this is twin flames beyond the 3D concept that it is. The whole twin flame concept is based on 3D reality, hence, in my opinion, it's seriously flawed as it's still based on a fixed reality concept. Even though some call it, okay, I admit I'm just going to completely read this from the website. Why not? I've already written it before. Even though some call it a 5D concept, personally, I don't think it is. Whilst it may be about a higher state, that doesn't mean that it's in a consciousness perspective and understanding an experience that created it. I tend to think of it as like a non-fixed reality that, quote, twin energy, end quotes, has no face, who or persona, and it can change to take the appearance of anyone. It takes the appearance of whomever it is you are learning and growing from. Hence, it's a process, and this is why you can't prove who the twin flame is on the outside, as the true one within can take the form of anyone and of many at the same time. As to the who is my twin flame, I have made a separate video on. I'm not going to tell you if someone is your twin flame or not, because I don't think anyone can, and oftentimes I don't think you're not meant to know, because that's whole part of the actual process. There is a separate video on that, which I will put a link to above. So here are some of the variations that I've come across. These variations could also be seen, and as I've actually written them, as various states of being as you go, up through the evolutionary and ascensionary development of the consciousness involved. As a footnote here, I've experienced all of these. I only write what I've experienced, and this is where all this understanding comes from. Throughout all of them, it has all been the same progress, the same process, so you could say it's been similar to stages in a linear progression, in a work, energy work, healing, etc. The first of these types I have is what is generally called a twin flame, which is also known as a split soul. Physical dimensional state of being. Usually two physical beings on a reality of form, physical, that have or are the same soul, or split depending on the perception. Usually this connection, which is actually the echoes of beyond the 3D, is all that is known. Two humans with a connection. Everything else is unknown, hence the 3D basis. It is not a romantic relationship or solely a case of unconditional love. Experience is primarily on the physical human level, including the body, persona and self. Next, there is the twin soul, also known as the monadic. This is a higher dimensional state of being. It can be related to one or more physical beings. Two spirits or souls that share the same consciousness, which in my experience was of having two higher selves. It's very similar to the twin flame concept, however. It's the souls themselves that are the twins, one created as two, like making two cups from the same lump of unique clay rather than just one cup. Experience is shifted to the two souls themselves rather than the physical twin. Next, I have what I personally, at the time, because the monadic type didn't exist then, I called it a dual aspect being. This is a consciousness state. It can be just as a single physical being. A soul whose consciousness is experiencing itself in a duplicated state on the consciousness level itself. So technically you could be having a dual aspect experience, or the monadic that I've just spoken about previously. Usually initiated within one's own physical body, it could be perceived as having an inner twin only, not a twin flame or a twin soul. It could also be called a twin consciousness, if you like the word twin. For me, I found that this is actually a gateway to the next stage. After this experience, my experience was shifted to the consciousness level. This is what I've called an X-fold consciousness. X meaning you can put whatever number there you like. And this is also now being called a collective or a hive. It's a consciousness state, therefore it's a collective consciousness, most likely having multiple physical and consciousness beings. A consciousness having any number of aspects at the consciousness level, or a dual aspect consciousness having many physical beings. The dual aspect is in fact one of the X-fold aspects, except if the perception of one aspect versus the rest on the physical versus the consciousness level, and it's the doorway to this. At this stage, all are equal and absolute. There is no hierarchy yet, and each aspect can take on a role of the whole dynamic. So you could be having a twin flame process with one, you could be having a split soul with another, you can have any process between you because you're all identical, you're all equal, therefore you can be anything to each other. The connections between the various physical beings, in my personal case, is one person per chakra. Chakra in this case also being a role. The bond connection between the physical beings is experienced in a way that is in keeping with the chakra that they connect to, creating a bridge, thus pulling them together. A completion is attained between them and the chakra, thus creating a new space state within each person. And within that space state is where each pair connecting to the chakras would experience the us of that pair. Thus, those coming together through this linear ascension that I've just spoken about through the types, thus you arrive at the X-fold consciousness at the collective level, which is where I've just been awakened to over the last week, so I can't state much on that just at the moment. But this is where the idea of the collective comes in, and also where the perception of many twin flames come in. So the twin flame concept is literally just a process when it goes on between two people. Obviously, if you've got more than two people, it's not going to fit into that concept, but that does not mean that it only happens with two. Hence, this new information needs to come out. Hence this video. So that is the article that I wrote back in July 2019. It's been up there for a while. Most people probably haven't even read it. Though now these more mainstream channels are coming out with this information, I think it's important that those that are actually having the experience are heard from as well, because they're the ones having the experience and they have the better information. And one thing that really concerns me is when mainstream channels are putting out incorrect information. So this is my way of putting out a better source of that information. If anyone has any questions regarding any of these types or the linear progression through them all as a type of soul connection ascension in itself, you can ask them in the comments. If I can't answer them easily in a short paragraph, I will probably make a separate video about it. Thank you. Let me know what you think.